concentration is very key, because if you're gonna play someone else on screen, you need to separate yourself from what is going on around you and immerse yourself in the world of the character. And on a movie set, that's perhaps the hardest thing to do. And I'd observe him take his time, go to his tent, and just concentrate on the scene that was about to come and get ready for it, so that when the cameras were rolling and action was said, he'd be ready to go and immerse himself fully in the moment. So I think that's the greatest takeaway I'd have picked from him. My acting teacher, Kevin Kitali, used to say that actors are acrobats of human heart experiences, in the sense that the things that people don't necessarily want to face, actors have to face them when they're playing these characters. And what I'd say to people is to allow themselves to live and to feel. And if, as opposed to building a wall around yourself to protect yourself, live out the energy and speak to the people around you, make sure that everyone knows what's going on.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Leaders Podcast. You're here because you believe that you too have been called to build and live an impactful life, right? This episode's guest is formerly known as Maxwell Simba, the lead actor of the famous Netflix film, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, where he acts the story of William Kwamkwamba alongside British Nigerian film director Chiwetel Ejiofor. Maxwell's acting propelled him to experience the Hollywood experience as the film premiered at the Sundance Film Festival and the Berlinale Film Festival. Where at the Sundance Film Festival, it received the Alfred Sloane Award, the prize given to a feature film that focuses on science and technology as a theme. Today, Maxwell is a student at the African Leadership Academy, where he's doing his A-levels and core subjects in entrepreneurial leadership, African studies, and writing and rhetoric. Without any further ado, Maxwell, thank you so much for joining us here at the Leaders Podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be part of this. Yeah.
Thanks, Maxwell. And I think just to really start off, I think having been back on campus, I have not had the time to even just catch up with you. The last time I saw you physically was when the lockdown, when South Africans asked to leave the campus. So I think to start us off, what have you been doing in this season? What has this lockdown meant for you? And yeah, what have you been doing to keep yourself busy?
So other than the normal stuff like books and all that, I've been writing scripts, engaging with my creative side, and just making plans for a couple of shoots that I was thinking of doing. And it's also the time I've taken to do a few film classes online, and also speak to a couple of directors and producers about potential projects here.
Well, that is quite interesting, quite inspiring indeed. We are here taking some self-time to reflect. Maxwell is talking to directors. He is a big shot indeed. I think, Maxwell, to start us off, I really want to go down memory lane, and specifically touch on your journey your journey with acting. And I know growing up in Kitali, Northern Rift Valley of Kenya, have you always wanted to take this trajectory? If so, can you unpack what helped you or what moments compelled you to decide that acting is something you'd like to pursue?
Acting for me, I think it began at a very young age in church. So we stage plays in church and do skits and all that. And when I went to primary school, we'd do the same. I would say being on stage and acting brought me a lot of peace and a lot of joy. And so I naturally just aggravated towards it. And I didn't know I was going to end up in film, but I was just doing my thing, like acting even in high school, because that's what brought joy to me when I was in the space where I was playing someone else's character, or I was in the space where I was living a totally different reality. So I'd say for me, it's something within that just compels me to keep doing it. Yeah.
And talking about that, talking about you acting, has there been someone in your family, or have you always had people support you along the way? Whether people that pushed you to take this as a career, or has it just been something you found for yourself and decided to pursue?
I'd say my mom is very supporting in terms of whatever I set my mind to do. So not necessarily just acting, but in everything I do, she's always there pushing me to go ahead and go for what I want. So at the start, we didn't see it as a career as such. I was just doing it because it's something I had a lot of fun doing,
Mm-hmm.
and so my mom would allow me to participate in school plays, regardless of them taking time away from taking more time from my time in school. She'd still support me. And I think that's the greatest motivation for me, the support, knowing that at the end of the day, my parent is comfortable with me doing this, and she's backing me in whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
That if there ever comes a time that I need a favor, she'll be there ready to step in for me.
Hmm. Now, fast forward 15 years down the line. At the age of 15, having only received acting classes from Alliance High School, you were selected by Chiwetel Ejiofor himself to star in the Netflix film The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, where you enact and I think beautifully portray the story of William Kwamkwamba and some of the social dynamics in that space. Walk me through the selection process and some of the challenges you face to get yourself into such a space.
So it actually came as a shock. At the beginning, we didn't know what was going on. We were just told by our acting teacher, Madam Catherine, to she basically assembled the drama team and put us in a room and said a couple of guys want you guys to audition for something, and we just went in, did what we do best, which is acting. We acted. That was the first round. They're doing auditions in Kenya at that time. So after that, 2 weeks passed, and there was no feedback from anyone about how it had gone. So my mind had forgotten about it.
Mm-hmm.
And just one night, it was a Friday evening, I was busy directing a play from a younger class of students. And a friend comes and tells me, Madam Catherine is calling me because you made it to the second selection. And at that time, my mind was kind of blown. I was like, wait, what happened? What just happened? And she said, they've sent the script in and you're supposed to read the script. You should be ready to go for the second round on Monday. And then on Monday, we go to Blue Sky Films, which is a film production company in Kenya. And the casting director, her name is Alexa Fogo from New York. So she's done a lot of casting work. But basically, she came and she was auditioning, as in there are a bunch of other kids from other places also auditioning for the same role. So my friend goes in and, he takes a lot of time. I don't know, it might have been 3 hours or more. He takes in a lot of time. And my mind is just racing, telling me, oh, there goes the role. That's it for you.
Yeah.
And then I step in and we have this beautiful chemistry and reading the script and our parts. And we took surprisingly a short time. So it was like, okay, she's already made up her mind. I'm probably not going to get the role.
Yeah.
But then we go back to school and, she says, she sends a message to my teacher that, she loved my performance. And she wanted me to go back on Thursday when Chiwetel will be coming to Nairobi. And at that point, my mind was, blown. Like I was going to meet Chiwetel. Like that does not happen, especially not someone who's just, entering the acting scene.
Yeah.
And I go there and, he's a big shot in Hollywood and he's won a couple of accolades and he's a brilliant actor. And I walk into the room and, he's just seated by the chair and then he walks up to me and gives me a hug. And, that's totally unexpected.
Yeah.
And he's very jovial about the whole auditioning process. And, he just throws his energy around the room. And after some time, I get to feel comfortable and we start reading lines. And the chemistry between me and him, despite the tension in the room, it was good. It was really good, I believe. Mm-hmm. And so after that, Alexa came to my school. Alexa, the casting director, came to my school to get a tour of my school and understand that And after the following Saturday, we had to go to a hotel, and we were reading the script at Hemingway's Hotel in Nairobi. And we kept reading the script via Skype after they had gone back to New York and the UK. So we'd coordinate the timings. So in New York, 7 hours behind Kenya, and UK is like around 3 hours. We'd have to coordinate a time for all these 3 time zones. And we're reading the script basically for 2 months until one day I'm just told, we are ready for you. We're gonna shoot on this and this date. Just get prepared to come. And at that point, honestly, it was overwhelming. It was a lot going on. Like I was gonna be in a movie set. All my life, my dream was, my dream was always to be in a commercial. Actually, But here again, I'm in a big budget film production, and it just blows your mind. Yeah.
Wow, amazing indeed. From just listening to you, it sounded like something that was a smooth journey. And I think genuinely interested in, were there times where you faced some challenges? Either challenges, I know, for example, you had to learn Chichewa. Were there certain things along the way that kind of challenged you as a person?
Learning Chichewa was a big step, because it is, in as much as they may have some words that are Bantu, it's nothing close to what we speak in Kenya. So it's a whole new experience. And immersing yourself in the world of the character you're playing and speaking a language which you just had to learn, a month ago is incredible. And you have to master your lines, and you have to prep for your scenes, and you have to meet with the dialect coach and all that. I think that was the greatest challenge, but it was very interesting for me to find myself in this space of being able to, get out of my comfort zone and learn something new. So I'd say, in as much as it might have been a challenge, everyone on set, myself included, gave it their best shot in terms of learning the language and trying to learn the accent within the short time. But it came with a lot of sacrifices in terms of amount of sleep someone got, or in terms of amount of practice someone needed with the dialects coach.
Yeah. Talk to me, just as you have been selected. Once you were on set, so after these 2 months of continuous Skype calls where you guys are running through these things, once you are on set, I believe in Malawi, where William grew up, how did it feel? And what were some of the things that you had to do to ensure that you enacted that role properly, that you embody what William was going through as he was growing up?
So I had to read the book for myself. The film is based on a book. That is The Boy Who Hunts the Wind, the book. So I had to read the book. I read it 2.5 times before going on set, and the script about 7 times or more. So that for me was my preparation in terms of understanding the character I was playing. Lucky for me, my research was based on material that was readily available. So I read the book to immerse myself in William's world, and just to understand his story from growing up to him going to high school and achieving all these big things, and how his life changes after that. And William flew in also from North Carolina to come on set, and it was incredible to be with him on set and to just be able to speak to the real person whose character you're playing. And for me, for the greatest part, I had to observe and learn his behaviors and how he would respond to certain situations, so that I would try and parallel that closely in my acting. So I'd say my tools were primarily the book, William himself, and the environment with which we were shooting.
And once, like, I really want to unpack once you really answer, because I think there are quite some interesting things and scenes which I found quite interesting. Did you at any point face, how did you go about ensuring that you perfectly embodied William? Was it through constant iteration, like having him around? Did he disagree with some of the stuff you enacted? Was like, no, that's not how I did it. How did you go about it? Because I'm thinking you probably had to lose your identity kind of embody this entire new complex being?
So William was not very much involved in the process of directing, the acting, and everything. That was the big guy, mostly Chiwetel. And he's a brilliant actor, and by virtue of that, he knows the journey that an actor takes when they're embodying someone else. And for me to embody William, I had to first of all learn who I was, because if I'm going to play someone else, I must know who I am and where I'm coming from to where I'm moving to.
Yeah.
And I had already identified where I was moving to, so it was for me to inspect myself as a person and find out what does not necessarily align to William's character and try to shed that off. And I'd say a lot of preparation would go into embodying William's character, because I had to prep for scenes that we were shooting the following day to make sure that I was on time and that I was giving it my best shot, because Chiwetel had believed in me despite me never having appeared in any other film, and decided, to give me the chance to play someone else. So at no point was I ever going to let him down by underacting or by not portraying the character to his vision. And so that kept me going. And the fact that there was a lot of people that were looking forward to me making the story what it is as it is seen, just kept me pushing, because I knew a lot is at stake and a lot needs to be done to get into that. So I'd push myself, go for rehearsals, and speak to Chiwetel constantly about my acting. And after we were done, I'd ask him for advice. And concentration played a huge role, because on the film set there's a lot going on, and if you're not focused on what you're doing, it's very easy to get distracted and to lose the sense in the moment. And so Chiwetel, I would say, was very instrumental in me embodying the role and character of William.
And I think, having spent so much time around such a world-renowned British Nigerian actor, what were some of the principles and attributes that you learned from observing him as a character or hearing him? What are some of the things he told you explicitly, and what were some of the things you learned from just observing Chiwetel in his space?
Well, I think what he told me was concentration. And I think that is something I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my acting journey until, I decide to move on to something else. But concentration is very key, because if you're going to play someone else on screen, you need to separate yourself from what is going on around you and immerse yourself in the world of the character. And on a movie set, that's perhaps the hardest thing to do. And I'd observe him take his time, go to his tent, and just concentrate on the scene that was about to come and get ready for it, so that when the cameras were rolling and action was said, he'd be ready to go and immerse himself fully in the moment. So I think that's the greatest takeaway I'd have picked from him. Something he didn't say to me, but what I observed was commitment. The guy, Chiwetel, is like a machine, because he was playing the role of a writer, a director, and an actor. And, he'd go into editing as well to direct the cutting of the scenes. But he'd still be able to give it 100%, like every single one of these things he'd give 100%. And it would blow my mind and even, make me move even further with my acting journey. I think he gives the craft his 100% energy, which is something I believe every actor should do, and which is something I believe, is something I'm going to learn and take away from him. The commitment to the craft.
And shifting from on-set to post-set. So after this thing is premiering at the Sundance Film Festival, seeing him, I from my understanding while in preparation for this interview, I know you guys have been interviewed by IMBD, something like that.
IMDb, yeah.
Yes, and a lot of different platforms have called you guys to kind of share what this means to you. How was it seeing him post on act as a person? How did he respond to all of that? I guess it must have been an interesting space for you, given that it's your first time being in a platform with a guy like Chiwetel and other amazing actors.
Chiwetel is a very, I would say, very charming and collected person. I don't think there was anyone funnier than him when we were on set, because during work he'd be the boss, and have things done and put his boss face on. But when we were having dinner together as a crew and as a group of actors, he'd be this charming and amazing person. And post-production, I think, was a beautiful moment for me. Not greater than the production bit of it, but Chiwetel is very collected. That's what I'd say. And to him, some things matter more than others, especially when it comes to the craft. So he's very committed to the craft and making sure that he does artistic justice to whatever he sets his mind to do. And even in the interviews, you could hear him from the way he was speaking and the way he speaks about the process that he went through to, make sure that the story was told in a beautiful way. And he's an incredible human, both as an actor and as a person, I would say, because of the discipline that he has as a person in terms of what he sets his mind to do and what lengths he's willing to go to make sure that it gets done.
I think quite inspiring. I think having listened to your answer is it kind of demystifies how, for example, a lot of great people are often perceived as non-human. I think hearing it from you kind of shows that he's also human. Yes, he's this amazing guy, but there are certain principles that you realize at the end of the day, he's a human being with an exceptional amount of work ethic, and as you said, certain attributes that make him do what he does. One of the things I found particularly inspiring about you, Maxwell, is that not only had you needed to learn Chichewa, but during those days you had to shoot during the day, you had to learn your lines, and at the time write your IGCSE, I believe, exams. How did you maintain the balance between these activities?
I don't know how you found out that, but yes, it's true. I had to write my exams while I was there. But as I say, I got out of school when school was in session, and so my duty as a student would have been to continue with schooling and do my homework assignments and the exams. And so I understood that by the school granting me permission, by the Ministry of Education in Kenya granting me permission to go and shoot during this time, it was a requirement for me to also fulfill my student obligations if I was ever to get another chance of having to do this. So it was hard, super hard. It was not easy. It was super hard. But I'd say both things were important to me, my education and my career as an actor, and both needed to be done. And I had to sacrifice some things. It meant I had to sleep less for a couple of weeks. It meant I had to study more and also do more crafting. It meant I had to let go of some things like leisure and all that to make sure that I get everything that needed to be done. And it was very challenging, but I was glad to have the producer and Chiwetel and everyone on set was very supportive of me, even as I did my tests and even as I was crafting in the process.
And coming back from the shooting, once the shooting was done, coming back to Alliance at the time, how was that? Did you smoothly adjust back to on campus, or were there certain things that you now had to catch up on and figure out?
I did not smoothly adjust, not at all. Alliance, Alliance is something else. Alliance, basically, everyone in Alliance is smart because they pick the smartest people from all over the country. And so if you miss 2 months of school and your smart friends have been working on schoolwork those 2 months, it's about to go down. Yeah. And it did happen. Yeah. I dropped by a lot of positions. And it was my final year of high school. And, seeing me drop in terms of ranking was very heartbreaking. And for the longest time, I had to put in extra hours because I knew I had to take home. Not that my mom would care if I went home with with a different grade, but I knew I had to give the best grade that was expected from me by virtue of having gone to Alliance and by virtue of the resources I had in my hands. And so for half the year, while the rest of my colleagues were preparing to write their final exams, I was using that time to recover from the time I had missed and to adjust to rigorous environment at Alliance. And then the other half was for me now preparing for the exams. It was not easy, but it worked out. And that's what I believe is important here.
So talking about, what at the time, and I know Chiwetel has inspired you a lot. Who else, despite Chiwetel, do you look up to in this acting space? Who really gets you inspired to continue doing the work?
Chiwetel is my great inspiration. That goes without saying. Perhaps another actor that I look up to a lot is Daniel Kaluuya. He's a British Ugandan actor. I'd like to believe he's originally from Uganda, but he's currently in the UK, I believe. He's the actor who did Get Out. Brilliant actor, brilliant person. I've been watching his interviews, and it's just, a brilliant person. And I think what attracts me to actors sometimes is not necessarily the fame they've amassed from themselves, but the commitment they give to the craft and the work that they produce. And that's why I'm very passionate about, following Chiwetel's work and following Daniel Kaluuya's work. Like, if there's any movie that has Chiwetel in it, even if it's from, 20 years ago, you can trust me, I'm going to watch it. That's the thing. Because by virtue of working with him and seeing his work, I know that he's someone that I want to be in the next coming 5, 10, 12, 20 years to come.
Yeah. Wow. Talking about inspiration, talking about, I think a lot of, as much as you've got all these people you look up to, I think one of the things that I've become aware of, either having been at the ALA campus, is a lot of students or a lot of people outside the academy probably look up to you, and you are role models to them, having done it, either back home in Kenya, Nairobi, given what you've done in such a short space of time at a very young age, what you've done for yourself. In that case, what would you say is your message to the world?
My acting teacher, Kevin Kittle, used to say that actors are acrobats of human heart experiences, in the sense that the things that people don't necessarily want to face, actors have to face them when they're playing these characters. And what I'd say to people is to allow themselves to live and to feel. And if, as opposed to building a wall around yourself to protect yourself, live out the energy and speak to the people around you, make sure that everyone knows what's going on, so that, like, this time during the COVID, people are reflecting on who they are and reconnecting to their human self. And that's what I believe acting is to me, connecting to the human self and to the human heart. And people, my message to the world would be, allow yourself to feel and allow yourself to live. If you're angry at a particular moment, don't hold it in until it becomes toxic to you. Let it out in a nice way that makes sure it does not harm you and does not harm anyone else, but make sure it's out there, and that the people around you feel the human nature that you have, and that you love those around you, and that those around you are able to help you when you need them the most.
Well articulated indeed. I think just to really add on, I think what I love about that is you kind of show how, actors literally have to be naked in front of the camera, kind of have to light that fire within you and be, as you said before, be fully present in that scene or embodying that which you want to embody, which I really love. Thanks for that. On that note, how can our listeners stay in touch with the work you're doing, either through social media? Where can people who might be watching this episode reach out and get to know you a little bit?
So I'd say there's my social media handles that someone can access. That is my Instagram, my Twitter, my Facebook. On Instagram, you'd find me at Maxwell_Simba. Facebook, the same Maxwell_Simba, and on Twitter at Simba_Maxwell. And yeah, let's stay in touch. Let's keep communicating, and let's make sure that stories are told, particularly stories from the continent.
Wow, thank you so much, Maxwell. Right, think of impact, think of film, think of the next Chiwetel Ejiofor, think Maxwell Simba. Right, there you have it from Maxwell himself. Guys, go read and check what he's about on his social media pages at Maxwell_Simba. We'll be sharing much more details on our page at The Leaders Podcast. Once again, here at The Leaders Podcast, we believe that as more and more young people grow conscious of their unique pearl, as they discover their hidden purpose, they essentially add value to society in the only way they can. Please remember to follow us on our YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts at The Leaders Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, comment, and share with at least 3 people who you believe will find this episode valuable. Until next time, thank you.